Welcome to Voice of Niger TV Daily Newspaper Review, where you get the insight of both local, national, and international newspaper front pages.
It's a Saturday morning, and I am Fatima Abdullahi Mohammed. I welcome you to Voice of Niger TV Newspaper Review. Here with me, I have different Nigerian newspapers and international newspapers. Remember, what I'll be giving you are just the headlines. If any of the headlines catches your attention, do go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of the newspaper and get through to the details. I'll be starting with this Nigerian newspaper called The Nation Newspaper. And from The Nation Newspaper, I have the following headlines. Zoning: Atiku, Wike, Tambuwal, Saraki shift lobby to PDP NEC, BOT. Drama as NLC protests abort governor's meeting on local government autonomy orders. You can find that from the page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Insecurity: I won't tolerate bulk passing when I become president. That's coming from Yahya Bello. You can find that from the page 6 of this newspaper called The Nation. And also, I watched helplessly as 13 headsmen slaughtered my husband. That's coming from Widow, and it has a rider. Recalls deceased breadwinner's battle with assailant. You can find out from the page 11 of the Nation newspaper. And above the nameplate of The Nation, I have the following headlines. Court to proceed with 7-count terrorism charge against Kanu. It has about 2 riders. Reduces charges by 8. Sit-at-home protest ground, Imo, Abia, Ebonyi. Blackout in Lagos, Abuja orders as national grid collapses again. You can find that from page 22 of the Nation newspaper. Alright, that's all I have for you from the Nation newspaper. If any of the headline catches your attention, go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of the newspaper and get through to the details. Right now, I have the Weekend newspaper, and from this newspaper, I have the following headline. Gunmen attack soldiers in Abia. It has 2 riders. Tank set ablaze as court crashes 8 charges against Kanu. You can find that from the page 8 of the Weekend newspaper. Editorial: Securing our railways, matters arising. I have another headline. Nigeria's box office records 346.6 million naira revenue in March. You can find out from the page 28 of the newspaper. Federal government receives $4.5 billion in taxes, royalties, orders from Shell. You can find that from the page 20 of the Weekend newspaper. Emefiele orders makes Forbes Africa's list. You can find that story from page 22. And 28 years after Egwavon Rufai received house prize. You can find the full story from page 17 of this newspaper. Akwa Ibom, man gets death sentence for armed robbery, life jail for rape. Wow. You can find the full story from page 9 of the Weekend newspaper. Ukraine war. Federal government condemns profiling detention of Nigerians. You can find that from the page 9 of the newspaper. That's all I have for you this morning from the Weekend newspaper. Let's move on to This Day newspaper. From This Day newspaper, I have the following headlines. Sent for consensus presidential candidate in PDP falters. Atiku insists on primary election. Court: Nnamdi Kanu must stand trial on 7 terrorism charges. It has a rider. Refuses to acquit, discharge him. Strikes out 8 other counts to rule on bail application May 18. Nigeria overtakes Iraq as country with highest number of IS attacks. You can find that from the page 10 of This Day newspaper. And above the template of This Day newspaper, Emefiele, infra code to unlock 8 trillion naira pension funds asset for deployment to bankable infrastructural projects across Nigeria. It has a rider. Signed term sheet with 4 asset managers. And also CBN's crackdown on cryptocurrency trading results in 1.314 billion naira fines to 6 banks in 2021. You can find out from page 5 of this day newspaper. That's all I have for you from this day newspaper. If any of the headline catches your attention, do go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of this day newspaper and get through to the details. Right now, I have the NewsDirect Newspaper, and from this newspaper, I have the following headlines. 2023, PDP eyes Atiku as consensus presidential candidates. You can get that from the page 3 of NewsDirect Newspaper. It has a rider, mass defection of aggrieved aspirant, supporters looms. NCC awards 233 million naira in research grants, professional chair endowment. And also, federal government must invest heavily on teachers to achieve SDGs 2030. That's coming from UNICEF. Nigerian oil ship blast after $200 million debt rail. Senator Adiola dumps governorship ambition for Dapo Abiodun. And above the nameplate of NewsDirect, I have the following headlines. Russia kills 50 at Ukraine train station. Nigeria winning the war against piracy. That's coming from European Union. And lastly, GTCO shareholders endorse 3 naira per share dividend payments. You can get that from page 2 of the NewsDirect newspaper. That's all I have for you from NewsDirect this morning. The newspaper with me right now is called the Vanguard Newspaper, and from this newspaper, I have different headlines. We have a bold headline written as Shocker. 16-year-old is mother of 3. 13-year-old expecting second child. You can find that from page 10 to 11 of Vanguard Newspaper. It has 2 riders, story of community where minors easily get pregnant. Elders blame it on poverty, government neglect, herdsmen attack. And I also have insecurity. I won't tolerate bulk passing when I become president. That's coming from Yahaya Bello. You can find that from the page 5 of Vanguard Newspaper. War in PDP escalates as Atiku, Saraki, Wiki protest fights. That's you can find from page 5 of this newspaper. Greatest lesson life has taught me. That's coming from Ali Baba. You can get the full story from page 22 of Vanguard Newspaper. Train attack. Abductors claim government aware of their demands. That's coming from victims' families. You can get that from page 4. Biafra, why court freed Kanu from 8 charges. You can get the full story from page 5 of the Vanguard Newspaper. What happens to you when you stop having sex? You can get the full story. If you want to get the full story, go to page 18 of Vanguard Newspaper. Labour disrupt meeting of governors, speakers over local government autonomy. The full story can be gotten from page 4 of Vanguard Newspaper. And above the nameplate of Vanguard Newspaper, why musicians can't avoid women, wine, weed. That's coming from Labaja. It has a rider. What made Fela a genius? Why I wear marks. You can find out from page 21 of the Vanguard Newspaper. That's all I can give you from the Vanguard this morning. From Voice of Liberty, I have the following headlines. Nigeria must invest in teachers to achieve SDGs. That's coming from UNICEF. It has a rider as Buhari increases teachers' retirement age. Home security, sick. International help over insecurity. Wole Soyinka tells Buhari. Illegal crude oil exports. Nigeria lost $1.5 billion in 3 months to oil theft vandalism. That's coming from Kiari. 2023, Emefiele will unify Nigeria, enhance socio-economic development. That's coming from Northern Group. State of the Nation. We have never had it this bad. It's coming from National Rescue Mission. It has a rider. Says silence is no longer an option. Niger State in latest attack terrorists and community abducts many. 2023 Presidency. Wike other PDP aspirants brainstorm on national unity. Nigeria orders face high risk of debt distress. That's coming from IMF cautions. That's all I have for you from Voice of Liberty. Right now, I have the Independent newspaper, and from this newspaper, I have the following headlines. Zoning. PDP faces long night of uncertainty ahead of convention. You can get that from the page 6 of Independent newspaper. It has about 2 riders, selfish ambition jeopardizing party's decision. It's insensitive for North to retain power in 2023. That's coming from presidential aspirant. Troops arrest 22 terrorist spears, kills scores 51,114 surrender. The full story can be gotten from page 25 of the newspaper. And above the nameplate of Independent newspaper, women representation must start from grassroots, says Okuno. That's coming from Lamidi. You can get the full story from page 11 of this newspaper. New Year starts in April, not January. That's coming from Pastor Adetola. The full story can be gotten from page 15. Beware of politicians. INEC chairman advises federal state bureaucrats. Yes, you can get the full story from page 8. That's all I have for you from the Independent newspaper. If any of the headlines catches your attention, go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of Independent newspaper and get through to the details. Right now, I have a Leadership newspaper, and from this newspaper, I have the following headlines. 2023, outnumbered by Southern aspirants, Atiku orders challenge zoning. You can get that from page 4 of this newspaper. Security, I won't tolerate Bok person as president. That's coming from Yahya Bello. You can get the full story from page 7 of Leadership newspaper. And above the nameplate of Leadership newspaper, I have Osinbajo blames slow development pace on bad governance. You can get that from page 6. As President Muhammadu Buhari assents to 6 bills, teachers now to retire at 65. That's all I have for you from the Leadership newspaper. If any of the headline catches your attention, go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of this newspaper and get through to the details. I have the Telegraph newspaper, and from the Telegraph newspaper, I have the following headlines. Boldly written, Obasanjo mobilizes former heads of state over insecurity. May write another letter. That's from page 2 of Telegraph newspaper. It has a rider go on distance itself from plan. Nnamdi Kanu caught striking out 8 charges from impetus to political solution. That's coming from Professor DK and Ohanezu. You can find that from page 4. It has a rider, we are disappointed but call for dialogue so that case is not prolonged. 2023, stay away from politics. INEC warns bureaucrats. You can get the full story from page 5 of the newspaper. Buhari assents to Law Reform Commission Act and others. You can get the full story from page 7. Canada to restrict non-resident Nigerians orders from buying houses. The full story can be gotten from page 6. Emefiele expresses optimism as $2.5 billion intra-corp launches operations. You can get the full story from page 3 of the Telegraph newspaper. Above the nameplate of Telegraph, we have attack on Agwata local government. Soludo talks tough, says Anambra can't be intimidated. You can get that from page 7. Oba Olatero Olagbegbe's son. My dad knew he would be removed 25 years after ascending throne. Reinstalled 25 years later. The full story can be gotten from page 13 and 20 and 30. Alright, that's all I have for you from Telegraph newspaper this morning. And lastly, from the Nigerian newspapers, I have Daily Trust. And from Daily Trust, I have different headlines. Humanitarian crisis worsens in Niger as IDPs troop to state capital. You can find that from page 4 of Daily Trust newspaper. Despite gold being billions, water scarcity worsens instead. You can get the full story from page 5 and 6. Why more Nigerians take to scrap metal business. Page 25 and 26. Federal government unveils 76 housing units in Kano. You can get the full story from page 7. Kano should be tried on 7-count charges as court strikes out 8. You can get the full story from page 7. If any of the headlines from the Nigerian newspaper catches your attention, please kindly go to the nearest vendor and get a copy of the newspaper and get through to the details. Alright, let's move on to the international newspapers, and here with me I have the Scotsman newspaper, and from this newspaper I have the following headlines. Zelensky decries evil after dozens are killed by rockets. For our children, deadly missiles chilling message. And on sports, top 6 split showdown. Alright, that's what I'll be giving you from the Scotsman newspaper. If any of the headline catches your attention, do get a copy of the Scotsman newspaper and get through to the details. And lastly, from the international newspapers, I have the New York Times newspaper, and from this newspaper I have the following headlines. Born into chaos and stress, far-right French candidate could upend election. And above the nameplate of the New York Times, it takes a huge effort to produce a tiny microchip. Alright, that's all I'll be giving you from the New York Times this morning. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our newspaper review. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our social media handle. Your host, Fatima Abdullahi Muhammad. Good morning and happy weekend.
At Voice of Niger TV, we keep you updated with news, information, and entertaining content. Kindly subscribe to our channels. Twitter at Voice of Niger TV1. Facebook at Voice of Niger TV, Instagram at Voice of Niger TV, YouTube Voice of Niger TV, and also our official website www.voiceofnigertv.org.ng.